having me to share my experience as well. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to learn a thing or two from each other. At the end of the presentation, as Jamie said, I'll be open to questions, and I feel like the question time will actually help in bringing the conversation to life. And yeah, when you're ready, Jamie.
Wonderful. I'll bring that up for you now.
All right. To start with, my name is Kemi Tomide Johnson, and I am the founder and the chair of Klimax Family Hub. And just to give you a bit of background into Klimax, um, we founded it didn't, uh, can you go to the next slide, please, Jamie? We didn't
Of course.
start with the idea 15 years ago, or roughly 16 now. We didn't start with the idea of having an organization or what have you. It was just basically, I had a volunteer during the Olympics, prior to the Olympics, by virtue of the job that I do day to day. And part of the volunteering activities was to support young people around Stratford. And this was time they were trying to move people away from the area so that they can make room for people coming from all over the world for the Olympic activities. And um, during the time, I met with some young people who are of African background, and the majority of them were troubled already in the criminal justice system or having some challenges that's with drugs and alcohol consumption, and some just are trapped. They're looking for way out and what have you. So I got into conversation with them, and through this I understand that fundamentally there was an issue, and this issue were more into things that I think that I'll be bringing to light today, but they kind of provide the bedrock to which Climax stems their services on, which is one to promote to provide family education for parents and young people, and to promote community building through events, and to provide welfare support wherever we can, and mentoring and learning support for young people, especially. Getting young people the actual role model that they can actually use to support themselves, because there's a lot going on in the African community that I feel like even the system is not really, may not be capturing effectively. There's this big gap there that needs to be. And then the recreational activities is just to be able to bring these young people of like minds together to share the problems, to share the challenges beyond the academic and the learning of activities, so that we can all find a common solution to progress and move forward. So that's Climax in a nutshell. But now delving into the issue, Jamie, if you could move to the next slide, please. Yeah, the issue I encountered, as I was alluding to earlier, was that of cultural and religion tensions that was often happen within the African setting. And I know there's a lot going on around Islam at the moment, but I'm not actually pinpointing Islam as it were, because when people hear of Africa, they tend to think of just a country or what have you. Have heard of situation thinking Africa is just a country somewhere, and everyone that's is people of color come from the same place. But Africa is made up of over 50 countries, and everyone from different area, from the North America to West of to from the North Africa to West Africa, have different culture, different way of life. In fact, if I have to use myself as an example, I come from Nigeria, and in Nigeria alone, we have over, I think it's over 500 ethnic community. and we all have different ways of life. You could, we have the Igbo, we have Yoruba. If within the Yoruba context, you will see people that will say, I'm Ijebu and Egba, and there's so many things. And for every peculiarity is we have different religion, we have different belief, we have different taboos, we have different practices and beliefs. And the way I tend to explain this to people is, if you say you want to go on a holiday, for instance, you need to go to France or Spain or America or what have you, think of a smart box, your travel portfolio that you want to take with you. What and what will you put in that travel bag? you know and I want to be sure that across the people on this platform, what we're going to be putting in that bag will be different depending on our taste, our social life, and whatever we are going for. you know and so it is when people are migrating from Africa, or indeed any migration in any part of the world, we tend to come with different aspects of our lives, and each individual will have their preferences. They will have things they hold dear to heart. They will have things that will be that has been imbibed in them, culture, values, some dietary requirements, and religion practices that have come with that. It will become the central to their survival wherever they are going. And this tends to be like when people migrate here, I see in young people a lot, especially in family settings, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of different things they do not cannot even imbibe. On one hand, mom and dad is saying this. On the other hand, the system is saying this, and there's very little that they can do, being even a child, because even the system itself is not providing that adequate information to help them to navigate. And another aspect to it is the impact of the family communication and roles. You know, when I migrated here, I think one of the shock that I first saw was a man pushing a buggy. Where I come from, that's a taboo. You never ask a man to do any role in the house, or to, in fact, cook for you. It would be like a communal punishment for that kind of a situation. So walking on the street and see a man actually pushing a buggy into the bus, on a bus, that was a big shock for me. And since then, I've seen different areas that things happens that, because I grew up in Nigeria, I know exactly how the culture works. And by virtue of interacting with families from different African countries over the last 15 years, I've seen the impact of roles and communication, the respect that is required from a woman to man, the stability that is required from a man to be able to say, this is me within the community. All this does impact how we we interact with people, how people perceive our services, how people are able to reach out, and then the sense of identity and belonging. Although we are here, not many people actually feel they are here. And I think we hear a lot in the news. We hear a lot, from conversations with friends and colleagues at work and what have you. But what we are not talking, what I feel like we should be reflecting more on is the impact it's having on individuals, because it is individuals that actually come together to form the community that we live, be it in the education system, in the health sectors and what have you. We are all individuals first and foremost before we become a community. And for us to be able to share effectively these spaces and make it beneficial to all, especially enhancing the growth of the community and not making it to work against us. I feel there's a need for us to actually understand the impact of this on each and every one of us and as a community as a whole. Next slide, please, Jamie. So, as I was saying earlier, uh, for everyone coming here from whichever part of the world, but Africa being a peculiar continent on its own, will have so many of these put into their suitcase, as as illustrated before, the economic challenges. We have the religious belief. You have the migrate, the conflicts that are happening everywhere, the trauma, the agony, some people left to escape persecution, some people left for economic reasons, some people left for different diverse reasons, and the cultural and language and the language, the culture and the language aspect as well. I can, for instance, even within Klimax itself, even though we serve largely the people from African community, I've met with people from Zimbabwe that do not even understand their language. I've met with people from Zambia. Met with people from Ghana. I've met people from so many places that I do not even understand what they eat, how they eat. I don't understand their dressing sense and what have you, but I have to learn how to actually learn all these things. And the language is a huge one. It's a huge one, because how do you even begin to offer help, support, or friendship, or build a relationship without even understanding what's how and how the person speaks? And the political instability as well. I think that's a lot, because that leads to so many systemic challenges that people do face. The people who come in with grudges because of, things we hear on the news, things we see our political leaders do. So already people have some kind of formed ideology before they even step into this country. And these are things that for an organization a charity organization, a community organization, a health system, or whatever you, to actually succeed in building inclusivity, we have to be able to unpick all these things and really understand how to synergize the working together to ensure that it is for the benefit of the community and not just for individuals, as the case may be. Because I believe largely in promoting integration and inclusivity, and not just creating pothole of services that will not, in the long run, be promoting cohesion. Next slide, please. So this table, I feel like I'll be able to share with everyone later, but I feel I put this into three main categories for the clash area, which is based on what I put on the slide two rather, which is the different value system. Our value system is quite different. It does not matter whether we are African or Chinese or what have you, everyone has got a different value system. And to be able to bring all these things together, we have to work as a community. And that's the religion aspect as well. There's diverse religion, diverse ways of life and beliefs. Again, that needs to we need to be engaging and asking questions a lot about this. And if I can just expatiate a little on that, for the Africans especially, we believe so much in our religious leaders. And when I say religion leaders, I want to do, because people tend to think, oh, religion is just Christianity, is just the uh, Islam or what have you. No, from an African perspective, I think it's much more complicated than that. On one hand, we're going to church, but we still hold what that's, I think this stems from the hierarchy system that we are brought up in. We place so much value on the religion leader themselves than the religion itself. I don't know if that makes sense. For instance, I'm a Catholic. If I am to act as a typical African, I will respect what the priest said much more than what the religion itself is preaching. And that's where the danger lies, because we tend to have a kind of misplaced respect for our religious leaders. And it just means that if a religious leader does not really align with whatever is going on within the community, or they are not fully informed, we risk getting people misled in a way. And I'll leave that at that, but I will just say that if you can think about situations, maybe about what you've heard on the news or what is going on around. And you can think of situations or scenarios where people who actually have been misled by their religious leader and not by the actual religion itself. And also, it just means that because we cannot always separate religions from values, there's always a huge clash from even the services as they were received. For instance, there's fasting. We have the Lent, we have the Muslim fasting going on. It just means that all through this period, we can't really make any any program that will involve physical gathering because food will be shared and that could stand as disrespect. And some people would think, oh, we can't eat a certain food at this time or what have you. And that impacts on the children as well. We've seen children being forced to fast. We've seen children who are often isolated from friends because of the beliefs of the parents and what have you. We've seen children who are excluded from taking part in school activities just because the parents feels like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. Swimming is a typical example. We've seen, I've come across a parent that's basically said, no, you can't be swimming because at the end of the day, your body will be revealed. So all these things it takes a lot to actually unpack them. And that's the understanding of how this thing work will help us largely in enabling that we are actually providing the right solution to the problem. And then we have the integration challenges. Languages is a big one. It is a big one because, like I said, um, people already have formed opinion before they come. And then the things they've heard, the things they've seen, some of these things are grudge, some of these things are just basic facts that are there and accessible to everyone. But when they get into the system, things change. They begin to see the the uh, the challenges of immigration, the challenges of the education system, the challenges of, I will give you an example. Like in Africa now, they believe that if you spare the rod, you're spoiling the child. And in fact, if you're beating your child in Nigeria, for instance, you can hire the whole neighbors to come and help you to join you. In fact, to say, oh, and they see that as corrective measure. And whereas you see here, it is illegal to actually beat a child. And then what you see is this thing going on behind the closed doors. And so many parents has lost their children due to this because on one hand, this is what they've been brought up with. And they feel like they turned out the way they did because they were actually beaten. They were, and if you're not doing that within the community that you belongs to, they see it as you're spoiling your child. And on the other way around, is there is no tools that have been provided to adequately nurture children or to educate parents in how to better parent in that regard and enabling discipline and what have you. That is just one example, but that can be replicated across every other areas of life as well. If I give you another example of nutrition, you see a parents because they don't know how to even do the pack lunch for their child because the child has gone to school with plantain or what have you, and the child was bullied for it. They were laughed at, and the child refused to take plantain the next day. But the parents do not know what else to pack for the child, so they would rather the child go to school hungry for the whole day. And they will even threaten the child, don't tell anybody you have not eaten. Whereas this is something that if with adequate education, there could be ways to actually get parents informed to ensure that they provide the needed food and nutrition for the child to have a stabilized learning in school. Another example that I could give, because this is where I feel like from the frontline people, people who are engaging with the community, we need to be doing more. A mother who just gave birth. I always give this example of when I first gave birth to my first daughter. I was so, no family around, nobody was here there to support me. And it was just myself and my husband, both of us still in our early 20s, in our late 20s, sorry. And I came from the hospital with my baby in the house, and it was just myself and him. I just had a cesarean section. I was in deep pain, but there was no support. Poor man, he doesn't know what to do. Baby was crying. We called my mom from Nigeria. And then she said to me, no, you have to get hot water. You have to press your tummy. You have to do this. And then bathing the baby and everything. The rigor was so much that I almost slipped into depression afterwards. And all the healthcare provider that were attending, they couldn't they couldn't unpick the situation. They couldn't unpick the right support to give to me. And I have said that since being in this country, that was one of the most traumatic experience that I've had, even as a mother. We talk a lot about uh, challenges mothers face, and that goes into uh, nurturing the child, feeding the baby. How do I actually miss? There's this taboo about if you're not breastfeeding well. How do you support? How do you have somebody on one hand, your mother is telling you, no, whatever the case, you should not feed that baby any baby milk. You has to come from your breast. But this is you struggling. You can't even do it. You don't know the right positioning. The healthcare provider comes around. You are not communicating on the same page. And so that goes on, it progresses into the toddler stage. When it's time to go to the nursery you are going to, they do not even understand you enough. They do not know how to adequately support your child in terms of the cleaning routine and everything. And so you're just left alone. You try once, you try the second time, third time, don't bother. And what do? You lean back to Nigeria or to Ghana, to Zimbabwe, to speak to your aunts, to speak to your mom. And then you begin to have like a clash of information. This is what you do. From 4, 5, 6 years old, your child should be hitting some solid. Just stick your finger in it. And then you go to the healthcare provider. The healthcare provider said to you, no, at this stage, this is what the baby needs. And I've seen a lot of mothers struggle, break down in tears for this. So I feel like this aren't a challenge as much as what we can do about it, understanding what is going on and being able to provide the right support that is not necessarily duplicating our services, but providing the right key element of support that will help in enabling parents and young people to navigate the system. Because once the foundation is destroyed, I'm sorry to go into the Bible, but once the foundation is destroyed, the Bible says something that what shall the righteous do? And we can replicate that because family is the bedrock of every society. A lot of this issue we are having in the community stems from a disjointed service that we are having, a disjointed kind of support system that we are having. And we need to be able to ensure that things are more integrated to promote inclusivity. Jamie, if I can have the next slide, please. And so, in fostering solution, from my understanding, 15 years of working with them, these are the tools that I used. And I feel like it has helped greatly in helping, in shaping Klimax as a community. Because from where we started from, we have a very robust community that we all kind of like act as families to support one another. And that is one, to foster understanding with empathy. Sorry about that. That should be with empathy. When we foster the understanding of what the challenge is, we ask questions. So, what's going on there? How do you come here? How can we help you? what it is that you actually need help with. We don't just offer we don't just offer solution with the hope that we know exactly what the problems are. It is in asking questions. Like I said, we have diverse people from our community, which is the African community, and also for across the BAME community as a whole. There's diverse people, and one shoe can't fit all. And and even when there is no service, existing solution that we can offer, we can show empathy. We can show people that it is it is okay to learn. It is okay to seek for information. We signpost and we guide. And also is collaborating with faith-based organizations. And I put that there because I feel like with BAME community as a whole, this is a trend that I've seen that majority of people, when they are struggling, they hide in religious places. And oftentimes, they don't get the right information. And they don't get the right information because the faith leader themselves, they don't know the solution. And they don't know the solution because majority of them are not actually working with mainstream organizations and the social system to actually provide, to gain understanding of the values and way to support people in way that it will enable them to provide the right solution. Many of the values they preach or to uh, uh, and I'll give you an example because say for instance somebody having domestic violence issue and they went to their pastor and then the pastor bring out the Bible to say, this is what the Bible says. You shall not divorce. You shall not do this. This is not what I view. And oftentimes they often kind of like bottle this also along with culture, the stigma and everything. So the woman is technically, or the man, because both male and female can have the abuse, is blackmailed into staying into the relationship without consideration for the children involved, without consideration for the woman's welfare. But because the pastor says so, because the imam says so, because somebody from Africa says so, you see this pattern going on and over again. And then before you know it, the children will begin to develop behavioral issues. Before you know it, there will be, in schools and what have you, there will be bullying because neglect will come in and things like that. And these are patterns that I have seen over and over and over again. You can almost see a child and know what the problems is at home. So as I'm saying that it's always good for us to work with community leaders, not just on the surface, but by sometimes going into their spaces as well to extend the service that we offer to them through collaboration. For instance, we can offer to go into a church or mosque during their service, give a talk on how your services are run, on how people can access help. And that way, before you know it, the information will begin to circulate within that community. But if we are expecting that they will come to us, in most cases, the restrictions are there. The walls, the barriers are there, but we can't see them except we ask questions. And then it comes to the learning, language and learning opportunities. Oftentimes, in fact, I've done this in the past. I'll put my hands up for that. The translation service to say, oh, we have to translate this so that people can read. But then, after it's one or two translation of flyers and informations and what have you, I realized that maybe that was not just the problem. Maybe the problem is actually enabling people to understand the language of the nation. understand the language of the community they belongs to. By teaching somebody how to speak English, by teaching somebody how to understand, how to access certain services, we give them the power to actually help others within the community themselves so that they can act as a navigator for other people. However, if we just focus on saying, oh, we're going to translate, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're creating an imbalance society, because no matter how much we do, the ultimate goal should be about promoting integration for everyone. I believe also that we should be promoting inclusive education and community programs. This I have learned with our tuition classes. We tend to do things that are not just for the benefit of our community only. We invite people from other community to come and enlighten. Food cooking is an example. We had a situation where parents were struggling with packed lunches. We invite somebody who is not of that within that within the African setting to come do some cooking for us, teach us what to do, what to buy, how to pack all these things. And thereby, before you know it, even parents themselves are sharing parts of the food. We don't have to do things just in isolation all the time. Next slide, please. And as I go back into rounding up, I just say that we've been doing this and we're still extending. We're looking for people to partner with. We're looking for people to work with. We are never shy of actually promoting that inclusivity. This was a recent the community engagement we had last year, the first picture on the left. And this is when we have the African Nights last year, and the Christmas nativity, the arts and craft classes that we offer. All these things, through all this medium, we continue to encourage parents and young people themselves to participate in community development, to participate in community interaction, to do as much work as possible to ensure, especially for mothers, young mothers especially, I see them in the categories of catch them young. If you are able to win a mother, you've win a family. So from pregnancy to adolescent to toddler age, getting them involved in activities, and which means that sometimes we have to just go out of our ways to collaborate with other organizations to make things happen. Because where there is no trust, where there is no trust, it's going to be hard to build a lasting and robust relationship. Next slide, please. That's just saying that we just got an award recently for our work, and we're really proud, and we still continue to do so. Next slide. I will now say, please let me know if you have any question. Obviously, you're very, very welcome to ask me questions. I think that will bring the conversation to life than just me rambling, as you say. Thank you.
Hi, Gina. I can see you've got a question. Do you want to come on in? You're on mute, I think, Gina, or the mic isn't registered.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, perfect.
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm always interested in like the social change of Southend, and so I'm a counsellor at the university at Southend, so very diverse cultural groups because you get a lot of international students. So sort of that clash of culture you mentioned. I worked with one client who said the faith was beaten out of him by a parent who was a pastor in the African community. Recently worked with a young Nigerian client who'd never been to the UK before, and obviously the culture shock there felt quite socially isolated. So are you, I suppose my first question, so I'm not going to hold the floor, but are you accessible in Southend as like a source of support? Because I was just thinking, I do signpost clients, and so yeah, are you based in Southend, or you've got support groups in Southend that we can signpost clients to?
Yeah, thanks, Gina. Yes, we are based in Southend and we operate, in Southend. And yes, we are very much open to support both parents, young people, and middle age alike. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Can I ask another one then, Jamie?
Of course, jump in. You've got your hand up still.
Sorry. Lover's hands. So do you, I mean, what do you know? I mean, I'm always interested in like the LGBT population in Southend, but again, social change, like I live in South Church, and I'm thinking you definitely noticed that it's becoming more culturally diverse. So do you know kind of statistically where Southend, sits and acts? Because I'm thinking about all the services where they, and unfortunately, adopt this one-size-fits-all approach and fail to consider, international recruitment, people from diverse cultures that may not have white philosophies, white religious views, etc. So do you have an idea about like if like the African or Afro-Caribbean culture in Southend, if it's growing, and if so, how, where?
I think, yes, you've asked two questions there, the LGBTQ. One, I think there are, but you can imagine as well, part of the implication of being one of that within the African setting, the huge stigma that is still going on. So I'm afraid there's no, as far as I know, I do not have contact with anybody who has come out openly in that regards within our setting. Um, in fact, in the last 2 years, I'll say is that the community has grown exponentially, and you can tell that straight away by just walking on the streets. And if I have to give you a context, this time about 2.5, 3 years ago, we had just 4 people within our tuition classes who are of African background. Today we have 38. So, and that's let alone in our WhatsApp group that's our parents, which we often verify by postcode. Before you join the group, you have to fall into within that postcode. Currently, we have over 80 parents who are residing in Southend, as against about just 10, 15 in the, around COVID period. So it's growing. And one of the reasons why we are trying as much as possible to work with other organizations within the community as well, so that we can ensure that they are organic, because I feel the people that are just coming in as well, there's something really peculiar to them. They're just coming in from Africa. So it is important that, that catch them young idea I was saying earlier, before they get into the system and things begin to disintegrate. It is important that we actually work with them as they grow so that they can integrate properly into the system.
Fascinating. Quite exciting, really, but also, like you say, probably lots of learning as the community grows, etc.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question, or those questions, Gina. Rutendo, would you like to ask a question next?
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you so much, Kemi, for that talking about cultural competency, its importance, and inclusion. You touched so many points. So I was just gonna ask, I know that obviously Africa is so huge, and there's a Southern Africa, there's West Africa, and with all the different cultures.
Exactly.
It won't be so easy to answer. But just kind of linking into what Gina said, I know there's been an influx of a lot of people in the UK. This is from the healthcare perspective, where we've seen a lot of families coming into the UK under the CSO, the care visa. So a lot of families are quite new to the UK. What are you doing to help signpost them, first of all, and then secondly, can you say something about working patterns? Because a lot of African families are probably nurses,
Yeah.
doctors, so how do services
Well,
engage when people are working shift work and things like that?
yeah. One, what are we doing to signpost them? Uh, I'm glad that Rutendo, you are from Africa yourself and you understand how the community work at large. Until we gain their trust, until you gain people trust, you can't really signpost. And what we do is, for instance, we have a program coming on. We have regular workshops, seminars, where we actually talk about different services within the community. And we also invite services provider to come into our space to tell people about what they do. That way, getting the information. If, for instance, somebody is having mental health challenges, they are very unlikely to come to you to say, I'm having mental health challenges. But if we are having an activity that will present that information of how to access help, they are very much likely to gain that information and go into the space to assess the help that is required. So that's one tool that I think that we've used a lot over years, and it's worked well for us tremendously, rather than waiting for people to come to us to actually tell us their challenges. A typical example is around gang and knife crime. A child could be going through trauma in school. They could be going through challenges, but no parent will come to you. Don't let me say at least, don't let me say no, because that would be too much generalization. But majority will not come to you to say, my child is having this issue in school. They will keep quiet until things go pear-shaped. So what we tend to do is to bring in workshops and seminars, education programs, and bring in experts that will talk around this subject. And then what you then see is parents coming forward to say, you know what, I'm having this challenge and I've gotten that information. Oh, my child is actually, due for court. Can I get help? So these are ways that we do help in ensuring that information get forward to them. So you may see people coming to access service as individuals, but not for sure they got those information from somewhere. And if I could just add to that, another aspect is the information capturing. For immigration status, for challenges, majority of people in our stream does not like their information to be captured because of trust issues. So just having somebody to signpost or what have you, they will be very weary, but they are happy to, if you tell them this is what you do and how to navigate the system, they are happy to go forward and do the needful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Rutendo. It's a great question. Just before I come to the next person who's got the hand up, Joe has just put something in the chat, Kemi, that said, hi, Kemi, at Bookstart based at the Forum Southend Library. We provide free dual language books for families with children under 5 years old in many African languages. It would be good to chat to find out about how we could possibly supply more families with these free resources. So I think that one is probably linking Joe up with your email address after the meeting, and then you can kind of have that chat
thank
and
you.
work together from that.
Thank you, Joe, if you're listening.
Jonathan, you got your hand up.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. Thank you, Kemi, for your presentation. It's always great to see what other wonderful organizations are out there.
Thank you.
I'm an anthropologist by training. I've done lots of work in Southern Africa in particular. And my wife, she's running playgroups for preschool children with complex needs in Southend. And one thing I've often observed in African communities, and especially in the Southern African context, is that there is a certain hesitancy or a certain fear of dealing with disabilities, in particular in children that are born with these disabilities. And we've also observed here that there are families that might come around to these play groups to see what they are about, but they are very, I don't want to say scared, but they are hesitant to come back and ask questions about medical backgrounds and so on. When I was working in South Africa, I was in a community where children were basically hidden away in back rooms because they were dependent on a wheelchair or because they had autistic spectrum issues and so on. So I was wondering, how do you engage with families that have these situations? How do you approach families? How do you make them comfortable with actually demanding the things that their children are entitled to in this country?
Okay, thank you. I think it's a two-layer thing. And I say two-layer because if I'm approaching the situation as a person of color, it might be different from your approach as a white person. I'm sorry if I have to use that. And that is one. There are two key things there: stigma, trust. So, as I alluded to before, even for me as a Black person, there's some services that I want to offer, and people will still back off. For instance, the welfare support that we offer to people. You see people who are actually struggling and who's got disabled children, and you tell them this, but because of so are they coming to get me? Oh, what is the implication? What's the consequence of getting this? You will see them, they will rather suffer because one of the things that is there often is one, the stigma of the shame of having a disabled child. It is still large within our culture. And so the way we do approach it is we talk to them, we encourage them, and we try as much as possible to include the child in activities, just looking past the situation and talking less of the challenges of the child. Because there is no need in reminding them about that, but we provide options and opportunities as to when we can. However, from your service point of view, I think you should be promoting trust more in terms of if it takes to actually explain that this service we are providing for you does not have any legal implication, does not have anything that will have be as much as possible explicit in the way you present information to them. Because when they have that rest of mind that there is no consequences to them getting the support, then they are more likely to lean forward for you to actually support them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was a great question. Should we come on to Emily from Indie Rock next?
Hiya, thank you. It's really, really informative and very helpful because we're soon to be working together. It's great to see you across the screen. So my question's a bit awkward, but so recently we have been trying to reach out to different religious leaders because we would like to make sure that we're being proactive and in being as inclusive as we can be. So Indie Rock is an indoor climbing wall in Southend. And some have been very responsive, and that's lovely. And then some, it's been a bit more complicated. Sort of, we would get passed from one person to another and getting very mixed messages saying, yes, we really want to do this. We really want to bring young people to climb at Indie Rock. And then there would just be kind of like a wall of silence, or we'd be passed on to somebody else who said, oh, no, I don't think this is going to work. And then I get a random call from somebody else saying, we really want to get this going. So, but yeah, it was very difficult to pin down. And then another religious leader from a different religion just wouldn't respond at all. So do you have any tips on how we can navigate this? I suppose building trust over email.
Yeah.
But maybe actually
it's a challenge across the board, and that's why you can see that I said a lot around that area, because I feel even for us within the African community, within the context as well that we work in, it's a challenge sometimes to actually get through the religious places. And that is one, I feel like there's this fear of you're teaching them, you're westernizing our children, so to say. So it is just something that I feel like is systemic, and except the system itself is enabling this to make it easier for service provider to gain access into these spaces, it will continue to be a challenge, because you can't, if you send me an email, if I don't want to respond, you can't force me to respond. And there is no better way to write an email than to write an email. Do you understand? And if you call somebody, so I think that is systemic and something that we need to, it will need some kind of policy intervention to enable that to be smoothed.
Thank you.
Thank you. But well done for trying, though, Emily. And I'm looking forward to bringing our own guys to, yeah.
Thank you for that question, Emily. Rutendo has also put in the chat, attend Eid in the Park and introduce yourself to some of the leaders or connect with Love Southend. And just echoing that point, a lot of the context that we've made at SAVS, we've kind of had a similar barrier to you before, where, you know, emails can sometimes get lost in the chain of people's inboxes. So we have like a meeting with someone on the off chance, and then we built that relationship just from that initial meeting. So definitely echoing Rutendo's point on that. So we got Mike next. Mike, do you want to come on in?
Hi, thanks, Kemi. Really enjoyed your presentation. Nice to hear like the authentic people speaking. My role these days is I deliver mental health first aid training, and for those that maybe don't know, it came from Australia. Australia is probably one of the least diverse cultures in this world that we live in. So my background is Indo-Caribbean. So I can see, you know, some gaps in that understanding. So you talked about one size doesn't fit all. Mental health first aid is kind of one of those things. And I think many of us who deliver this training are thinking, right, okay, how do we now, we've got the basics, how do we now, you know, deliver this for other communities who interact differently to the standard kind of European or white colonial model, certainly. I did a bit of work in East Africa, and we were short on funds. We were building an irrigation system. So we could buy cement, but we couldn't buy ballast. So we spoke with the community leaders, who are also religious leaders, and we had people breaking rocks by hand to make the ballast, to make the concrete. And it was absolutely a fantastic experience watching that, everybody getting involved and so on. Just interesting it is. Jamie believes if we had to do work on the A127, whether we'd all turn up and with a hammer and break up rocks to do that. I don't think we would somehow. So yeah, I just want to echo the bit about, you know, religious leaders, African religious leaders, really a fantastic you know, source of access to the community. But the access has got to be that we're listening. We're not going in and telling everybody this is the way you do it. You're in England now. This is the way you do it. You know, it's actually yeah, we've got to listen to people, because we have to develop services, not only services just for African people, but also for our indigenous communities. You know, exactly. Mental health first aid is you know, it needs developing. And the way it will develop is if we talk to other people. So yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make that point. I now have to shoot off to another meeting, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for that, Mike. Keely.
Oh God, hiya. Thank you for the presentation. It's actually opened my eyes up to things that I hadn't even really thought about before, and it's sort of, I've been sat here sort of like pondering, oh, just, yeah, no, it was really, really informative. My question is actually quite similar to Emily's. So I work in the Alzheimer's Society, and I support people with dementia and their families as well. And some statistics do show that people that of like an African heritage are actually more likely to develop Alzheimer's dementia, and they often, like you said, don't usually get the same support. And that's something that well, as a society, we want to help. We don't want to not give these people the support because maybe they don't know that we're here, if that makes sense. I don't really know how to word the rest of that question because but I just want to be able to provide the support to the people that really need it. And as you said, those in African communities, they don't really get that. And I just wanted to know how or where I can go, what we can do to be able to show that that support is there and that we want to support you. And I find that like a very difficult thing.
I mean, it has to be like a continuing effort, like what we are doing
Yeah.
today, to continue to educate ourselves and work
Yeah.
together as a team.
Mhm.
And in raising awareness of some issues and, providing information as to when services, where services are and how they can be assessed.
Mhm.
And if you can imagine, with Klimax, it's almost impossible to cut across the whole of Southend. You understand? But the more of this we do, the more information sharing we do have, and we raise awareness on the issue as a community as a whole. I feel like that will eventually get there. But ultimately, I feel whatever we're doing, we should be promoting the act of integration, not us versus them, but getting the information on the platform that we actually are one community.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Thanks, Keely, and obviously we'll share Kemi's email at the end as well, so you can maybe link up to see how you can kind of spread that word through.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you.
Laura?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, all good?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I'm the a project worker for the One Love project. I don't know whether any of you have heard of the One Love project. We're a charity in Southend, and we provide support to people that are experiencing poverty. And we're predominantly a food service. We provide hot meals in the evening for people that are rough sleeping and for people that don't have cooking facilities necessarily, or people that have got their own accommodation but they can't afford food. So anyone basically that's experiencing poverty. And we also provide a food bank for people that are experiencing poverty, where they can come and we don't require a referral from like a professional body. Like anyone can just literally turn up and request help. So I suppose my question is, do you have some information that I can give to people if they come? Because we are seeing a few African descent people attend our service. And also, do you do outreach support to people?
Yes, we have support that we can, and I will share my email. I'll actually pop my email in the chat right now so that we can connect afterwards, and then we see how we can actually work together in ensuring that we provide the right information and when need be, work together.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Laura. Always nice to make connections over the call. Kay, would you like to come on in?
Thank you. Yeah. Hi, Kemi. Thank you for your
Hello.
insight.
Hi, Kay.
It's been really, really interesting. So I'm chair of Hampshire Road in Harmony, which is a multicultural festival once a year in Westcliff. And I recognise all of the challenges in terms of making inroads to various different communities locally. Before I ask my question, I just wanted to mention, and you probably already know this, Kemi, but Children and Young People's Mental Health Coalition have just recently done some forums around some studies on shame in racialised groups. I thought that might be something that you might like to link with. But I wanted to ask, you mentioned systemic difficulties, and I guess the challenge really is around how do we build consistency in the way that we approach our different cultures and different groups within Southend, or broader than that actually, because we tend to work on short-termism. So there's lots of short-term interventions. There's little pockets of funding here and there, but it feels like the conversation that we're having is very much around systemic change and making inclusion a normal part of every day in education, in our services, in the way that we approach people. And it's a huge question, I know, but I just wonder how you feel about the first step to making it consistent, so that whatever stuff.
I think it's a big question, and I often ask myself the same question because, and if I can use a little example in my head, like the way I play it out. If I invite somebody into my home, or somebody decided to come into my home, and I decide to offer them a room, and I have a kitchen, a tiny little kitchen that I don't mind them sharing with me. I think as much as I'm offering that help, they should be willing to see how I tidy up my kitchen. They should see where I put my pots, how I put my, and then we should be able to work together to have a peaceful coexistence. But if I decide that, okay, for us to have a peaceful coexistence, I'm going to have to divide the kitchen. You will take that portion and I'll take this portion. It's only going to take a while before we get crushed. Because if another person comes in to share that space, do we divide the kitchen again? And if another person comes, do we divide the kitchen again? So this is the way I see migration and coming to this country. People are coming here, and we are grateful that we are being accommodated. But until we begin to provide services that allow people to actually become one with the people who are in the system, we will be developing portals of different services. And before we know it, we will create a very big, I don't know, monster that we may not be able to deal with. And this is where I go, that inclusivity does not mean we have to have duplication of services. It has to start from education. Education that will enable people to integrate properly. And this idea of catching them young, this is where it comes from. For a young mother, for somebody who is just being introduced into the system, being able to be a point of contact for them, to let them learn through the process, that their children will be able to grow into the system rather than the system trying to create different portals of different services. That is causing a lot of confusion. So I don't know if I answer your question, but I feel like within our community, Southend, there should be a lot that should be going on around education and awareness within the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I agree. I just think it's difficult, isn't it, to move from multiculturalism as kind of buzzword in education to and don't get me wrong, I know there are lots of people doing really good work in education, but it's not really embedded in terms of that support. So thank you.
We can always start from somewhere. Okay. If each service focus a lot on actually educating and raising awareness to specific, rather than saying we need to get a service that is just adapting to different community, it will help.
Thanks for that question, Kay. Kemi, you mentioned in the chat that you would respond to Chiquita's question.
Yeah, because she asked about me being involved. If we have offered service to about county line, because once a year we do a program on internet safety and gang knife and what have you. And yes, we have a assisting organization. We work with the SS Police as well to ensure that we get the right information and to work with the industry experts to provide information in that area as well. So I'm open to support organizations that want such to be replicated within their service as well. We can tailor it for parents as required.
Thanks for that question, Chiquita. I
Right,
think that's brilliant. I think that's all the questions we've got, Kemi. I know I think the questions were